Okay, so there's something happening in Puerto Rico, and this caught my attention because there's a couple people I know who live in Puerto Rico or have relatives and family members in Puerto Rico. Now, for those you don't know, yes, Puerto Rico is a U.S. territory, and these are U.S. citizens. And right now, the residents of Puerto Rico have been facing continuous blackouts, continuous ongoing blackouts. Now, they recently had, at one point, a functioning electric grid. But of course, due to circumstances such as devastating hurricanes, corrupt politicians, gentrification, corporations moving in, many of the people of Puerto Rico are being pushed out. Now, I want to play this video here. For it's quite recently, as there are people protesting the power plants that are, well, horribly managing the lives of the people of Puerto Rico. And the people of Puerto Rico are being displaced and being removed. They're being gentrified off their own homes. Chicago knows about this. Hell, any major metropolitan city knows about this. When people get gentrified, they're being pushed out of their communities. And what's happening in Puerto Rico is on steroids.
And Puerto Rico is under attack! What do we do?
Puerto Ricans are facing a power grid nightmare, and U.S. corporate greed is to blame.
True, people are leaving the island because they can't pay for electricity.
Puerto Rican activists gathered outside a federal court in New York City to protest Golden Tree, the Wall Street vulture fund that's trying to profit off of Puerto Rico's energy crisis. Puerto Rico was already suffering from an outdated electrical grid when it was battered by Hurricane Maria in 2017. When the Puerto Rico Electric Power Authority went bankrupt, Golden Tree moved in and bought up its cheap bonds. Now, Golden Tree is taking the Power Authority to court to force them to raise electricity costs and use that money for a payout to the bondholders of $8.5 billion. But activists say that's the last place Puerto Ricans' money should be going.
The bondholders want is to have that money just for repayment instead of investing it in the grid, which is what it actually needs. If it's not invested in repairs, people are just going to have to leave the island.
The other company that stands to make millions off of Puerto Rico's crisis is Luma Energy.
Now, from what I've heard from people close to me, and I'm going to leave these individuals and respect their privacy, the rolling blackouts have been continuous. Now, let's just face it. When you have continuous rolling blackouts, what does that mean? Cell phone batteries don't get charged. Food isn't properly refrigerated or sanitized. Oh, let's not face it, too. That means lack of communication. How could we forget also rolling blackouts impacting, I don't know, emergency services, hospitals, roads, lights. All these things are very important. It's almost as though it's being done on purpose. So meanwhile, while there's a presidential election cycle taking place, and yes, unfortunately, yes, politics does take front and center, there's other stories flying under the radar.
Luma is the private U.S.-Canadian company that now manages the island's electrical grid. Back on the island, Puerto Ricans hit the streets in outrage at Luma Energy after another massive blackout left 340,000 people without power during a heat wave last month.
Luma es una mafia avalada por el gobierno y avalada por el Congreso de Estados Unidos.
In 2021, Luma took over parts of Puerto Rico's once publicly owned grid in a 15-year deal for $1.5 billion that was sealed behind closed doors. Puerto Ricans were promised a privatized grid would improve service.
Ese proyecto y ese modelo de privatización con Luma fracasó. O sea, todo lo que le vendieron al pueblo, todo lo que dice Pierluisi es para las gradas, porque Pierluisi fue el que le vendió al pueblo que eso era una empresa de calibre mundial, que no iba a haber aumentos en el costo de la luz, que den un tiempo en lo que... Mira, y lo que esto ha sido totalmente un desastre.
Under Luma's watch, blackouts are only more frequent and prolonged, and electricity costs are higher than ever.
Now, this is the kind of stuff you would see in North Korea, the DPRK, the kind of stuff that, the media kind of likes to point and laugh at. The people of Puerto Rico are U.S. citizens. They're American citizens, and they're being treated like crap. If this had happened in Chicago or New York City, oh, wait, it kind of does. But I mean, continuous. Yes, there's been blackouts in cities before in small towns, but continuous rolling blackouts. It's almost as though it's by design. And once the wrong people are moved out and the right people move in, oh, everything works just fine. It's so swimmingly well. We've seen this before. Look at what happened to people in Lahaina. Burnt out, but there's construction happening, but not for the people. It seems to be dragging their feet. Sort of like what's happening here in Chicago when you have gentrification happening, be it through economics or by environmental disasters. People are being displaced.
After several Luma price hikes, Puerto Ricans now pay an electricity rate 40% higher than what those in the US pay, which means they're spending 8% of their incomes on electric bills, compared to 2.4% for Americans.
No le importa y le siguen faltando el respeto al pueblo. Por eso es que estamos aquí y esperamos que esto sea el comienzo de muchas manifestaciones, porque, vuelvo y repito, el país, para que tenga paz y tranquilidad y estabilidad en el sistema eléctrico, hay que anular ese contrato y traer a las trabajadoras y trabajadores que fuimos desplazados.
Narvaez is referring to the hundreds of skilled electrical linemen with the Union of Electricity Workers who were forced out and replaced by workers from Luma's parent company. But a shortage of expertise only partially explains Luma's incompetence.
I want to pause here to acknowledge something in the Kick chat, which caught my attention. Transgemini, citizens without representation. Very spot on. The people of Puerto Rico are, excuse me, U.S. citizens. And they are not being represented. They're being forced out.
La Junta, that's the US appointed board which has controlled all of Puerto Rico's fiscal policy since 2016 when Obama signed the Promesa Act. They are totally unelected by Puerto Ricans. By selling off Puerto Rico's public assets to private companies, the
Let's rewind that again. They're not elected. But I thought we had a democracy. No, we don't have a democracy. Stop it. We don't have a democracy.
US government is ensuring the island is more favorable for its corporate profits while making it unlivable for Puerto Ricans. There are now more Puerto Ricans in the diaspora than on the island itself, and they say they're being forced out by these austerity policies.
Forced displacement is a weapon of colonialism. They are making conditions in Puerto Rico impossible for people to survive, for people to make a living, for people to access food, water, their basic needs. So Puerto Ricans believe that they'll find it here in the United States of America. And when they come here, they realize that the situation is just as dire here for Puerto Ricans and for all people.
By the way, yeah. Thanks, Obama. No problem, folks. This is Barack Obama. Let me be clear here, folks. Everything's going to be privatized. I got in, and all of you went to sleep. And now Joe, he's going to sleep, and all of you are waking up. Be sure to vote harder.
People that live in the United States of America, they want us out of Puerto Rico so that they can take over and make it into their.
Gee, Miguel, you seem to be hitting the spot on. Sounds like Palestine. What's happening there? People being displaced. A story that's all too familiar in the history of man's inhumanity to man.
Own paradise, their tax haven.
And so this has been continuous and ongoing. Outraged Puerto Rico residents express frustration over widespread power outages. Still ongoing. And this is their infrastructure and so much more. Again, so many Puerto Ricans right now are posting on social media about the rolling blackouts. And the biggest one, their biggest blackout, again, this article came out June 13th of 2024, so just last month. The biggest one came Wednesday, leaving more than 340,000 customers without electricity as the island grappled with heat warnings. And look, hey, a non-controversial statement in a 3, 2, 1. This might surprise you, but Puerto Rico, it's a vicinity where the temperatures are going to get hot. And you got to stay nice and cool, right? This power company is screwing over the people. People are dying. People are dying. People are being displaced. And this private corporation is incapable of doing its job because, one, it's a corporation that is more interested in making a short-term profit, not long-term, short-term. There's also a way to gentrify people and displace them. And number three, this is a way for a people to be abused once again by a system that doesn't care. The people of Puerto Rico deserve dignity and respect, just like any other U.S. citizen. And yet, this is what's happening to them. But we've seen this story before, my fellow Americans. Not only just in Puerto Rico. Now, of course, what's happening in Puerto Rico is on steroids. It is by far extremely violent. It's wrong what's happening to the people of Puerto Rico. What's also happening here in the United States as well. Private corporations screwing over people via water, electricity, heat, cooling, all of that stuff. We've seen this before. You want to bring in change? Electoral politics isn't the way, but we have to start doing citizen battle initiatives. We have to start building movements and organizations not connected to Washington, D.C. And after this election cycle, there must be continuous involvement because look what's happening to Puerto Rico. No investment into infrastructure. Very similar to what's happened to Flint, Michigan, East Palestine, Ohio, and all the railways. What happened to the people of Lahaina? Hell, in Chicago, a major metropolitan city, we have pipes, lead pipes, and the only way to get them out is for you to pay it for yourself. You're not angry? You should be. If you're not furious, you should be. These are U.S. citizens, and they're being reduced to, oh, that's right, having candles as light source, preserving whatever battery is left in their cell phone. Is this a way for a global superpower to treat its citizens? Under neoliberal economic policies, under an oligarchy government. Unfortunately, this is what it is. And when Americans wake up and realize that both parties do not like us, they don't think about us, they don't respect us, the better off we'll be. What kind of politician, leaders, institutions treat its citizens like this? We have to be better, or we're all going to be in the dark.